Hello everyone, this is Allegedly Caleb, and I'm excited to tell you that Panzer Campaigns Orel 43 is currently on sale. So it is at about a 25% discount, the WDS game of the week, and this is a huge package for the price. There are multiple 100+ turn campaigns that you're going to get in here in 1943 units. So you're going to have lots of fun toys to play with, lots of really interesting scenarios. But first, let's take a look at the actual announcement on the WDS website. Here we are. So you can see Orel 43 Game of the Week. First, they went over a little bit of changes that they did for Poland 39 and France 40. Just some bugs that they fixed, essentially. Then they went into the Orel 43 details. So, essentially, they're describing the historical situation behind Orel 43. So, the Germans launched a major attack, also known as the Battle of Kursk, earlier in that year. You can see here a little bit into, I believe, July. So the Germans launched that attack in July to try and cut off a bunch of Soviet units, but the Soviets had planned for the Germans to make that attack. So after this long attritional attack where the Germans wore out their armored units, the Soviets then planned multiple counterattacks. One of these counterattacks along the northern Kursk salient was Orel, and a counterattack to retake Orel for the Soviets. So that is what this game is about, and there's so much to go through here. Just take a look at the WDS website to find this posting. I do want to mention I started reading this guy, David Glantz. He does mostly Eastern Front stuff, but his books are so good. Oh my goodness. I started reading his Anatomy of a Military Disaster on Kharkov 42, and while I'm playing the game against James in our campaign. And man, it is a good book. Very good. Highly recommend that guy. Anyway, so you can see a bunch of their videos here and screenshots of the game. All of this stuff you can find on their website. And I'm about to show you way more than screenshots. So, there you go. That is the post. Now, we're going to take a look at the campaign design notes. This will help inform our look through the game. So, I have the game right here. You can see, and you can also see, here's all the scenarios. There are many scenarios. A couple of smaller ones. Most of them are pretty big. Couple bite-sized scenarios for you to take a look at, but also plenty of campaign-sized scenarios to either play against the AI. I wouldn't recommend playing against the AI on campaigns that are probably like over 100 turns. I'd try to find a human player to do that. Or you could play yourself. This game has pretty good fog of war. But anyway, so you can see so many different scenarios, even a getting started scenario to get you familiar with this game. Here, let me close that. But let's take a look through all of the campaign and operational phases. So these are going to be all the really big scenarios, and then all the little scenarios are smaller bite-sized chunks of these huge campaigns. So first we've got Kursk, the northern flank. This is part of Operation Citadel. So this is almost like the prequel. This is the German attack. And you can kind of see why the Germans had such a hard time breaking through here. Look at this. And this is actually just a little snippet of the overall Kursk attack. So I do have Kursk 43. If you want to take a look at that game, I have that on my channel, an overview of it. But this is just a little piece of it. And Orel is up to the north of where we are. So, yeah, there's so much for the Germans to try and break through here. So much. click on a couple units really quick. I do enjoy, yeah, look, these are Goliaths. Those are those like, almost like the first type of IED, like vehicle IED, essentially. Lots of German toys to play with, but, oh, here's some of the Ferdinands. Oh, these guys are so cool. Look at that heart attack, 55. They've got 88s mounted on them. Quick history behind these. These tanks are what remained of the 100 Tiger Porsche chassis. So they thought they don't want to just get rid of or waste those chassis because they had 100 built already. So they thought, why not we turn it into a tank destroyer? And it became a very, very effective tank destroyer. Anyway, so you can see a bunch of interesting tanks. So many Stugs over here. Anyway, I don't want to bore you by going through all the units the whole time. So that is the prequel scenario. Now we've got the what would you can consider the Soviet offensive part of Kursk, which is Operation Kutuzov. So this is after the Soviets basically repelled the Germans and they did not want to leave them to lick their wounds. So here we are. This is the main scenario, the main campaign, I should say, of the whole game. And you're about to see there is a lot to do here. So you can see all the big Soviet buildups. Let me find some armor. Yes, T-34, 76s. Yeah, so all the big buildup along each of the flanks. See the German units too. Their lines are a lot weaker. Another buildup right here. And you've got Orel. Let me move this out of the way. Another big Soviet buildup. They've got their KV-1s. Yeah. And we move down south. This is kind of where near the Germans had attacked along Kursk. So this is that first scenario we looked at. You can see tons of units down here. Let's find some armor. I always love looking at armor. I don't know what it is about it. There's something about World War II tanks that's just sexy to me. Yeah, here's the Tigers. A lot of the German units, a lot of the units in general are going to be below manpower. Specifically the German units. Because, again, you have to remember, these guys just came back from a giant offensive that failed into probably the stoutest defenses a lot of these soldiers have ever faced before. So, big offensive. And then they're going, you got Orel right here. That's the big one. That's the big one you want. You've also got Karachev. Not quite as big victory point wise. And then Bryansk, which they don't really expect you to take in this. Actually, this is all of Operation Kutuzov. So you could take Bryansk in this. But we'll go into the breakdowns of this major one. So you got Orel, the first phase. We're going to find that scenario really quick. No, I don't want to open. That's a mistake. Selection. There we go. So, Orel, phase 1. Here we go. So, you can see the map here, not drastically, but it has been reduced. So not quite as many units to worry about or move around. Although this campaign game is still very big. It's 199 turns, so that's if you're doing one turn a week, that's 54 turns a year. Just to put that into perspective. All right. Now we've got Orel, Battle for the City. That's the next phase. If you want to think about it that way. Let's see. It's right here. I believe that's what I want to look at. Reconquest of the city of Orel. Yep. So now you're going to see the lines move on the map. There you go. Now this is a much smaller and more manageable scenario if you want to, if you'd rather play something a little bit more bite-sized. Although again, it's 97 turns. You probably are going to be able to play more than one turn of this a week because a lot less units to manage. So you could probably get this done in a couple months. But again, if you like WDS games, you'll know that's sort of the way you got to think about these games. Is they're not games you can finish in a week. Unless you can finish a lot of the smaller scenarios in a week, but or less. Anyway, back to the subject matter. So then we've got Kutuzov operations in August. Selection. Yeah, that's... There we go. And that's August 6th. That's what we want. Now you're going to see that front line move again. And now the Soviets have Orel. So you can see it's interesting that it's not all rubble. You'd think there'd be a lot more rubble after all that fighting that took place. But now the Soviets are closing in on Bryansk. They will not capture it though. They'll focus on Karachev in this scenario. And that's where the base game ended. But Orel did receive an update not too long ago where that extends the dates out. So this is in August. Soviets launched another attack to take Bryansk in September. And this is officially getting into Polish territory, I believe. Actually, no. I'm thinking of Brest-Litovsk, I think. Yeah, no, this is still Polish. Or this is still Soviet territory. But anyway, you can see quite a lot of units. Only 125 turns, so not quite as many. But lots of German and Soviet units. Mostly everyone starts with full... A lot of the armored units aren't going to start with full... with their full TOEs. Especially on the German side. The German armor is going to be very battered. Here's some of those Ferdinands again. Those guys are so cool. I love them. Ooh, some Sturmpanzers. That's cool. I love those types of tanks. Those rare types of tanks that the Germans liked to field, they weren't effective because they didn't have them in sufficient quantities, but it is cool to see them on the battlefield. Some Tigers, not many. More Tigers, still also not many. Actually, this is 90% of their TOE. So they actually were brought up to strength. Anyway, so that's Operation Kutuzov, the second phase. And that is where the Orel 43 original base game would end. Now, these files, they're the game notes. These are free for everyone, regardless of whether you have the game or not. So I would highly recommend going onto the website and looking into... Can I see it on... I don't want to show that right now. But go onto the game page, basically, and you can find it there. So the next game file I want to show you is the expansion pack. So WDS loves to do this, and this is one of the reasons I love and will always support them as a company. They give content for free. They give huge amounts of content for free. And what I mean is they launch these huge expansion packs for their games. And mind you, some of these games were made in the 90s. So some of these games are really old. And they launch these huge 100+ turn campaigns, and they give them to you for free with these updates. So again, I'll always love them for this. And look, 3 more campaigns. So September 1st, the Bryansk offensive, first phase. Let's find that. This is all sorted by date, by the way. See, 7, that's July, 8, August, 9, September. And look, this is a 300 turn campaign they gave to us for free. If you had the game already, that is. And the game did not increase in price or anything when this came out. So, anyway, here we are. Soviets now have Kharkiv. Huge offensive. They're essentially going to try to sweep down and around, because this forest, as you can probably guess, would not be very fun to fight in. That's why there's hardly anyone over there. So, another campaign. Look, you even got some German units over here. Some tanks, I should be more specific. Of course, there's going to be tons of Germans on this map. Not as many as the Soviets. Now, where's their armor? Here's some of the Tigers. Yeah, now they're very low. And this is why when you look into history and you see that the Germans dreaded being on the Eastern Front, the infantry did, I mean, this is where that perspective comes from, because the Eastern Front was just a grind. It was a meat grinder. I mean, you had so many men fighting 24/7 essentially. Even in the winter, when historically other armies throughout the world would go into winter quarters, not in Russia. So, anyway, that's the entire Bryansk offensive. Then you've got it's split up into front south and front north. Front north actually takes place further down the line. Oh, really quick, you can also see all of the other scenarios that come with it. So this was all given to us for free. Let's take a look at those other scenarios. Here's 9-7. And you can see the Soviets have closed in on Bryansk. And actually, it looks like they're attacking from the north. Unless they didn't really push hard along the north until later. Anyway, I don't know as much about the history here as I would like, but these games definitely make you want to learn it. Yeah, and that is essentially everything you're going to get in this game. Crazy, crazy amount of content. Absolutely insane. So again, I recommend these games. I will always recommend this developer, this game designer. Here's a little battle for Orel that you can get into if you'd like. Wonder if you have those tank destroyers here. No. But anyway, guys, I will leave it off here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you end up buying the game, let me know. Let me know. I'd love to hear if my feedback made any difference. But anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you in the next one.